Greg could kill you. There was a lawyer that once described him as good-looking, articulate. He said something like he could sit down with judges and lawyers, have dinner with you, and for dessert he'll kill you. That's how they described Greg, you know. And we had the tape. This lawyer got caught with heroin, got arrested, so he immediately cooperated. And they were interviewing him about all the guys from the Colombo family that he dealt with. And we had the tape. So how did we get that tape? You know, Greg's connection got it.
Right.
And this became, as we look back on, in time, the handwriting was on the wall. We just couldn't believe it, knowing he was such a killer. I'll tell you what happened during the war, which, I mean, really made it certain. But there were things like Greg Jr. told me that just weird things that would happen where his father wasn't part of something. The next day, found out that they all got pinched. A lot of that. But there's a lot more of that going on.
So if he was protected by the feds,
that's why the trials would get blown. Not only that, this agent was giving us addresses of our enemies. So he gave us an address.
A dirty agent.
He gave us an address. So these are all the things, and I'll get to them. The last casualty of the war. Well, not really the last one that we did. Then when I was away, there were a couple more. Well, when we all got arrested, just sort of cleaning up the mess.
Did this agent get in trouble? Is that how Greg eventually got in trouble?
Him and Greg were together for many, many years. Like, he was working for the feds for 30 years. It goes all the way back to the Mississippi burning story. You ever see that movie?
No, I've heard about it. I'm familiar with it. What's this? Yeah. What is this? Can you tell, for people who haven't heard it, tell it.
It's about these 3 civil service workers that they're fighting for to abolish the racial tensions and all of that. But the Ku Klux Klan in Mississippi was still very strong. And they killed these civil service workers. One was black, and I think 2 were white. And they buried the bodies. The FBI couldn't get anybody to talk. None of the Klan's guys would talk. So they recruited Greg Scarpa. They brought him to Mississippi. And you could see it in the New York Times. This is very public now. He went, and the words that were told to me later on, because sometimes the FBI says more than they should, was that he did unspeakable things. So, that leaves you a little imagination. And then later on, I heard he had a knife to their groin area.
Cut their dicks off?
Again, I wasn't there, but, these are things that you piece together yourself. Unspeakable things. He had a knife.
It's not unspeakable if you're talking about a KKK member, though.
No.
Who cares? He cut his balls dick off. It's all right. We can smile about it.
So, that's true. So anyway, he finally gets to the guy that knows where the bodies were buried. It's like only one guy really knew.
Okay.
And whether it was the second in command or whatever. And so since that day, I used the term carte blanche. He had carte blanche to do whatever he wanted in the street. He was never going to get arrested. And he took advantage of that to, making a money-making machine and a killer.
God, he was making he must have been getting paid quite a bit to be.
Oh, he was getting paid too. Yeah. That came out later on in the trial. The FBI agent, I won't mention his name because he did beat the case. The reason he beat the case was Greg's, Linda, his last wife, the one that I was with for 10 years, just about, had conflicting stories. Earlier on, and this is my deduction, she was still on the payroll to keep her quiet because she knew a lot about this agent, okay? And once they stopped paying her, I think she got scorned. Okay, because now she had no money. She was not living well. Greg is dead. So she comes clean and admits what she knew about him. So the things that I knew, okay, during the war, we had this big, I don't know if you're too young to remember, these big shoe phones, the stockbrokers used to carry.
Oh, yeah.
Now everybody has a little cell phone.
Pictures.
We didn't have phones back then. So he would call somebody, or the person would call on that phone, and he would refer to the person as his girlfriend. It's my girlfriend, meaning his connection. Whoever it was, we didn't know. We thought it was a cop based on some of the information. Then we thought it could be somebody on the other side. He says, someday I'll tell you. He says, but he wouldn't tell us. Me and Jimmy, my partner, we're the only three guys were together every day during the war. Nobody else could come near us anymore because we knew somebody would give us up. Our own friends now, to get this over with, would kill us.
Right.
So we were one. The three of us were one. And he, what was I talking about? Why did I lose my train of thought again?
The big shoe phone, calling his girlfriend.
Yes. So I had phone records. Later on, the feds got these phone records, so they know exactly who he was talking to. Okay, we had a scanner, which had a secret code, like a 5 or 6 digit, pick any 5 or 6 numbers, random, 7216543. We had that code, so we were listening to the FBI and local task force police as they were following us and our enemies. We knew when they were behind us. We knew where they were going. So how did we get this? Then it came a little later on, we were getting this information that had to be from surveillance. Like, it came back like we knew exactly what time this guy leaves his house, 3:40 in the morning, because he goes to a school bus company that he owns. Okay? We get there at 3:20, 3:40, the lights of the car turn on. Somebody was doing surveillance. Mm-hmm. So that information later on we knew came from him.
Right.
We also had access to FBI badges and credentials because there was one guy he wanted to go and call him out of the house as the FBI and get him in the car. And once he gets put in the car, Greg was going to be sitting in the car. I mean, picture that scene, how that guy would have felt. No, he's in cuffs and he's sitting between me and Greg. You know, because the guy knew us. Actually, it was Wild Billy Catola. And he knew me, so I couldn't go to the door. But there were a few guys that he didn't know that would dress in cheaper suits than we usually wear and go up to the door and show the credentials and call them out and tell them, we're not going to cuff you in the house. You know, sometimes the FBI would do that. We'll cuff you outside, you know, if they want to be nice. Not to do that in front of the family, you know, because they know we're not typically going to shoot it out with them.
Right.
So anyway, we had this whole plan. So all these different things led to FBI. Okay. Later on, 2 of the agents themselves were sitting in the office with this agent, and they have an episode on The Sopranos about this. When the biggest hit of the war happened, Nicky Grancio, who was Vic's choice for consigliere, okay? When we got him, he banged the desk, the agent, and he says, we're going to win this thing. We're going to win this thing. The other agent says, we? Like, and then they started putting pieces together too. This is what made them know. There's one agent underneath. This was a supervising agent who was bad. The underneath agent, his name's Chris, doesn't matter, I won't give his last name, gets an address from surveillance of where Vic Arena's hiding out. That's our number one target. If we kill Vic, the war's over.
Right.
Okay? Greg gets this address. Okay? We go there. There's no house on the lot. It's a wrong address. So, the only person Chris gave that wrong address to was his superior. How does Greg wind up with the same exact wrong address? So now they knew that
they followed Greg there or something?
Well, no, just Chris didn't give it to Greg. Okay? This address. He gave the address from surveillance. This is where to his superior.
Oh, right.
So that's the only.
Right.
So he's wondering how Greg got that address. You know, and this all came out in the trial later on. Mm-hmm. You know, that's how. You know.
How did Greg initially get? Like, if he had that protection, how did that protection dissolve? Because the other agents found out that Chris was dirty.
Well, no, Chris wasn't. His superior, his supervisor,
yeah.
yes,
and you won't give his name.
Partially that.
We don't know his name.
Well, it's alleged. His name's Lynn.
Okay.
I see. I don't like to come on in because he beat the case.
Okay.
So
he doesn't speak about it publicly.
He does. He does. Okay. He wrote a book.
Oh, okay.
You can read the book. It's called Deal with the Devil.
Deal with the Devil.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's done documentaries.
Oh, really?
So he's out there. I mean, yeah. Just you could research it and find his name. His first name's Lynn.